welcome to Flooring Models Kit Review Time. Today we have IBG Models 1/35 scale, the Green Devil, because I can't actually pronounce that. Is it Rosomak? It's the KTO Rosomak, also known as the Green Devil. I'll go with that one. Something a little bit different, and to be honest, I've only just recently even heard of, let alone looked at, IBG Models. And again, one of those kit manufacturers you think, who? Never heard of it. And you're expecting it to be, I don't know, nasty, for want of a better word, or something sort of lesser. And actually, it really is a nice surprise. They are very, very nice models. So, this kit was released a few months ago now, but to be honest, this is John's kit and he's lent it for me to review, so we thought we'd have a look at it. You can see some nice little box art on the front, okay. A little bit of information on the sides. Obviously, you can see we get some very nice sheets of photo etch down in there, which is a very nice touch, okay. And then around here on the side here, so your kit number 35032, okay, on there. And then a little bit down on there, and it talks about what it actually is and all the rest of it for the Polish Army, things like that. So again, some nice details like that. So in the box, which is, I have to say, I know it sounds horrible to talk about the boxes, but their kits are coming to really very nice, very strong boxes, as you can feel. They don't skimp on their packaging, but certainly it's a solid box, which I know is nothing really. Okay, so as I say, we've reviewed some of their stuff before and they did it last time. Very nice to actually see. We get a beautiful little print of the actual box art. Okay, and it is a proper print as well. So that's really very, very nice with the artist signature on there like that as well. So again, if you are into your artwork, and to be honest, it's something I've got into recently, it is quite nice having the little touch of it like that. So, big old instruction booklet, as we can see down on here like this. Usual thing, we've got a photo of the actual parts trees, layouts, and everything else like that, as we can see with those ones, and then step by step working your way through, which is done in this sort of CAD-esque type of layout way of doing it, which isn't too bad at all. Okay, nice and clean, as you can see, right the way through, steps working through there. The seats, as you can see, very nice detail of the seats, and it is nice to show you a little picture once it's completed as well, so you can actually see what it should be like at the end, because all too often you'll get this type of thing, but nobody points out to you what it should be once it's completed. So again, you can see here, nice detail internal, so we've got the latches and handles and things for the actual doors as it's working its way through, and then obviously the periscope system on there being fitted in there, and as you say, we've spoken about before, we've got those armoured seats as well. Then we've got the engine system going down in there right the way through, so we've got a full engine for the interiors, and then some of this photo etch bending to be done in this one, okay, so it's bending it all 90 degrees, okay, nice touch again, and again some more photo etch for the externals and internal parts like this, okay, and then right the way through. So as you can imagine, it's quite a complicated chassis setup on this, being this sort of, you know, 8-wheel drive type system. Okay, so you know, it's quite a bit of work going to be putting the chassis together. Again, nice touch. We've got all the transmission systems being put in there. Obviously we've got all the actual the spring system and everything else, as you might imagine, and then the shocks, everything being put in there to give you a fully detailed 8-wheel drive system being put through. And again, nice pictures from different angles just to make sure you've got everything there correctly. Wheels being fitted on there, as we can see, so those going through, and then starting away with the lower hull interior by putting in the seats and some of those details in, as we can see, like that, which is a very nice touch, and then basically working your way through. So the full internal details of this one right the way through, engine, the actual driver's compartment, and the fighting compartment in the back as well. Okay, so as you can imagine, lots of various little bits and pieces going down in amongst all of this, but again, good, simple, easy to follow instructions, very nicely laid out and thought about the way that these are actually going. But this is the type of thing we're talking about. All too often you'll see this, okay, and then you get a nice picture with it all showing it in position, just to double check you've got everything in that right positions. Then the upper actual part of the hull interior as well, and the exteriors all being fitted onto this one, as we can see, right the way through. Some nice grille work. We've got sort of mortar-esque, I don't know if they are actual mortar at the back, but the top hatch is open as well. And then, as you can imagine, we've actually got this cage, the bird cage type armour system on the back, just to keep out the old RPGs. As you can imagine, all of those being fitted down in there like that. And then obviously we're into the actual turret system for the cannon. And then all the details, as you can imagine, fully detailed right the way through. Nice cage around the outside of it, and then obviously right the way through down onto that one being fitted, and then the externals going on, hatches up, periscopes, things like that. Then you've got this nice drop down system onto the lower chassis, mid and upper part of the actual hull system being fitted to it, and then a drop down system for the actual turret. So again, probably lends itself very nicely to being actually showed with it just being a pull off top if you wanted to show it in that type of layout. Then we've got all the stowage items going onto the outside, and then obviously the rail system being put up to hold onto the actual cage armour being fitted onto the outside of it, and then again some more pictures to see what you should be getting at the end of it. Okay, painting, as you can imagine, one colour fits all. So you're basically with your desert camo on that, and then obviously decal placements, as you can see, but a great little time with your weathering and your various parts just like that. Okay. Really very, very nice. Now again, we were saying about some of the kits that you see these days, you know, from newer type companies and that, you're always like, but honestly these really are very, very nice. They actually remind me quite a lot of Takom, the way that their actual plastic feels, the way that they do certain things on here. But as you can see, here we are with that actual hull, top hull, with actually you've got the anti-slip pads right the way over everything else. Some of it's close, okay, but not quite a cigar. So as you can see, we've got ejector pin marks, but they don't come through, so we're not worried about it, okay? It's only when they pop through, but you can see how close they are by the stress. But generally looking at it, you can probably see a lot of this detail is very, very nicely done. The bolts on the outside are actually quite sharp to touch, which is a good sign, because it means they're nice, sharp and crisp, and they're not softly molded or anything else like that, okay? These actual locating trees as they fit on here, as you might notice, they actually end right where you'd want them to, okay? So it shouldn't be a problem to snip them clean at that point with minimal tidy up right the way through. Internal wise, obviously it is a lift up top and bottom to this one. You have got a lot of ejector pins down in here, so you might want to just take your time and run around and clean them out. Some of them are raised and are going to need a little bit of work to get rid of, but I think it'd be well worth spending perhaps an hour of your time just going around either filling or certainly sanding out those just to have a better impression on top. This louvered grille system as well, there's a little bit of flash just running across it. If you can see it down there, I think it's easier spotted on the inside. You can see in the midsection, so you're just going to need to pop in there with a little bit of a blade just to go around there and clean that out. But generally, very nice indeed. Nice solid construction. Now the lower hull, seeing as we've got all holes out at once, so down in here, again, obviously the underside, you know, we've got obviously the chassis system's going to run down the bottom here, so a lot of this I don't know how much is going to be covered up and what you want to do, but generally on the inside, so we've got nice bolt detail, things like that around the front hull with the armor plating, no problem with any of those. That's actually very nicely done. All of that down in there, and then down on the inside of the actual fighting compartment, again, you might just want to have a look to see how things line up. We have got some ejector pins, but they might not be anywhere that's going to be seen. The checkerboard floor is not too bad at all, so I'm thinking we're going to have something go down in here is going to hide that area for ejector pins. The engine bay is completely devoid of them, so it's no problem there. So I'm thinking pretty much you're going to be okay with all of that down in there. That looks pretty good indeed. Okay, so working through the normal screws. Okay, so rear door, so we've got the rear access door down there, obviously internal things like that, and then obviously this is an amphibious vehicle as well, so we've got some screws for the back, some propellers. Okay, down in there for obviously the drives and the covers for them for the actual directional steering, and then obviously, as you can imagine, we'll find a lot of this smaller plumbing and wiring work and everything else for actually making up a lot of the heavy duty details down in there. But it is very nice to see all of these parts clean, precise. The sprue gates actually, as they join the parts, are a little bit heavy. It would have been nicer to see smaller ones. Some of these ones here you can see are quite chunky, so just be mindful when you're cutting them from the sprue to come in from the correct direction, so that way you take most of it with you with minimal cleanup. But as you see, even if you was to come in with these, you're going to be in that situation where you're going to need a little bit of cleanup afterwards. Okay, so just be mindful of all of that. Engine detail, so obviously we've got the actual main engine block itself, as you can see down in here, and the other parts all coming off of it, and then the cooling fans, drive systems, turbochargers, things like that, as you can imagine, working your way up. Again, all pretty nicely done, no problem at all with any of those. Clean, no real sign of flash. There is little bits here and there, but it doesn't tend to be on the parts themselves. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. Okay, so suspension. Sorry, this is the actual drive shafts and the actual transmissions running right the way through the 8-wheel drive system, as you can see down in there. Really very nicely done, and then obviously these bars working your way up with all of these. And again, a little bit of cleanup going to be required as you sandwich these together. You might notice just down in here we've got a little bit of flash. Again, they are literally as easy as that just to flick off. Just make sure you have though, because otherwise you could have a join problem, like we've got this guy down here sitting a little bit proud. So obviously you just want to make sure as well that these internal ejector pins here aren't sitting too high to foul against each other when you overlap. Okay, so test fit before you come in with the glue. If they are, you might just want to pop in there and snip and cut these down a little bit in height. Okay, but they look really nice. Okay, internal wall detail. Okay, for the actual engine compartment to the driver's compartment, and then that is the big bit that's going to cover those ejector pins in the middle of the floor, so we don't have to worry about those. The actual driver's console doesn't look too bad at all. It's a little bit basic, or maybe a little bit generic with some of the switching and that perhaps, but again, I think it's perfectly usable in this scale. Okay, and generally no problem at all with any of those. That looks quite nice. Okay, so as we saw during the process, there's a lot into this kit. This isn't a shake and bake. This is a full interior model as well. Okay, so as you can see, this is the framework system for the mesh guards on the side. Tiny little bit of cleanup perhaps here and there, just around in these, just to make them a bit nicer. Those are supposed to be in there, so that's good. It's just that it needs a little bit of deburring work, I'm thinking, just to take a little bit of that edge out. But generally no problem at all with all of that. And as you work up, correct side, you can see we've got the rear, nice good bolt detail, all the parts for the actual crew main doors, right the way through. Pretty good. Again, for actually flash on parts, there isn't much at all. Okay, again, same thing, running right down and through. Got the wheel, and then obviously some of the other smaller parts, and then we're a little bit more into the doors, the seats, and stuff like that, working right the way through all of that. But again, really very nicely done. Okay, so we've got, do this one, part of the turret, the lower turret system, the side baskets, the things like that on this particular one, some of the door system, the gun itself running down on here, which looks a little bit basic. I don't know if anybody's popped out with a nice metal one yet. We've actually got the basket sides for the actual turret. Very nice indeed. Again, there's nothing on the parts. They're all very clean and nicely done. Okay, some smaller workings down in here. So we've got various seats and things like that, as we can see. No problem, no flash on any parts. Certainly no mismold, sink marks or anything else like that. It's very, very nicely done. Very, very nicely engineered. And even on the blind side, no problems at all with anything with ejector pins in places perhaps you wouldn't want them. Ooh, we have an open bag, generally just open. So we can get one of these out. Okay, so it's a multiple bag of the same. So we've got the wheels. So we're expecting separate tyres at some point, okay, because we've got the walls of the tyres down on here, as you can see, right the way through. And then, because these are generic ones, as you can imagine, with lots of seat work down on here, lots of suspension for all the various parts and transmission drives, things like that, in with those. But again, very, very nicely done. No real sign of any problems anywhere. And again, we were saying there's no issue with, certainly that I've seen, with ejector pins in nasty places. Okay, so again, these just two. So we've got the sidebars. Nice. Again, I think just a touch of deburring work just to take off. This one's had a knock, to be honest. You can see the dent in it. But again, that's not too much of a problem to have a fix. That's pretty good, all of those. And then the turret. So again, those anti-slip pads right the way over it. Looking very nice indeed. Some nice details. And then on the inside, a couple of ejector pins. Depending on how the layout is in there, you might want to whip those off and out of the way. But again, actually really very nice, very clean, sharp moulding, which is what we like. Okay, so we have in the box wheels. So these are injection moulded, they're not resin, but this gives you an idea for the tread. Nice deep tread patterns, nicely moulded, so that's why they are done in separates. So that's okay, as long as they go for a nice fit, should be good. Nice chunky design, so even if you needed to get in there to get them in, I think with a good sand job and everything else, you should be having no problems, because you can weather up tyres very, very easily. So obviously a nice big bag of those down in there like that. And then some of the smaller bits. So obviously we've got the clear parts, which, let's face it, clear parts when they're flat, you've really got to mess it up to get that wrong. And they are, as we can see, perfect. Crystal clear, no problems with any of those. There's a little bit of sinking, just a tiny bit on these, but I think, you know, can't really massively complain about them. Okay, so that's pretty good with all of those. And then last up, just down in here, I wonder if this is a resealable bag. No, it's not. Sorry, John, we're going to open up your bag, unless I can find the resealable bit. Don't think there is one. Okay, so photo etch, it's only because I want to know how thick this stuff is. Okay, so it's covered. That's actually very, very thin indeed. This has got a plastic on it to obviously help, well, one, stop it getting rusties and all the rest of it, but also holds it nicely together. Very, very nice indeed. No problem with that. Obviously it does have a proper side. This is the blank side, so obviously there's no real detail, but on here you might see that we've got nice grill work, and then on here you've actually got like well beads in the middles of them and everything else like that. Very, very nice indeed. Okay, and then obviously we've got the other side, just the same. But I think that's going to be very thin. It feels thin already, and that's in plastic, so by the time it's out the plastic, you should have no problems. The decals, minimal. Tech Mod, cool, I haven't heard them from ages. Okay, Tech Mod seems to be, they're okay. They can be a little bit thick, but I think they're okay. As you can see, they don't look too bad. I'll catch a carrier film in the light. You can see the carrier film is a little bit around it. You might be able to see the thickness on some of those decals there, but pretty much they're okay, no problem with that at all. So there we go. Again, it's really nice to see new companies jumping in, coming along, and certainly doing stuff that isn't the normal everyday kits that we find every other manufacturer doing, like T90s or Abrams and things like that. So to pick out some other stuff, and obviously being a Polish company doing Polish armour as well, is absolutely lovely. So that is the IBG Models K2O Rosomak, is it? Also known as the Green Devil.